Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to talk about another new vehicle that I've spaded recently. It's the M4T26. Now, this one is new for the American tech tree and sits at, to be honest, a pretty dodgy BR. It sits itself at 6.0, and as you may know, 5.7's really strong for America, 6.7's insanely strong for America, but this 6.0, 6.3 area is not exactly as strong. So you get some very odd matchups, especially for this M4T26. The only thing you really have to back you up properly is the Bulldog, the M41A1, and I've got to say it did a lot better than I thought it did, that I remember doing in it previously. It was actually quite a nice little second vehicle, using its mobility to be able to get around the flank and try and force parts of the game. The other little areas, or the other little things I brought along, were the M36B2 for some extra punching power, the F2G1 from the Battle Pass, and then also the AD4. The AD4, and then you could probably throw in a fighter if you wanted instead of the F2G to kind of complete the lineup. So the M4T26 is an amalgamation of the Pershing and the Sherman. Therefore, depending on who you asked, it's either the Shershing or the PerMan, and I kind of like the idea of the PerMan. But the simple fact is, it has the same issues that I have struggled forever with when it comes to the Pershing itself, and it's the gun. The gun is unreliable on this thing, and it's incredibly unreliable even against 5.3 vehicles, which you will face a lot of because there's a lot of people playing Tigers and Panthers. You can't reliably pen the front of a Tiger or a Panther unless you shoot them in very specific spots because of the volumetric shells and also the volumetric armor that sometimes it runs into. The gun itself, before you get the adjustment of fire modification, which reduces its spread by minus 17% on the horizontal and minus 23% on the vertical, basically means that you will never be able to hit the areas on a vehicle that you need to hit. And that is one of the big problems with this 90mm. It just doesn't shoot straight when it wants to, and also at the same time, it has a longer reload than a lot of other things, meaning that if you miss that shot, there's not really a lot you can do. The reverse on this vehicle is also incredibly weak, and since the armor is not very good, the mobility is okay once you get the upgrades, but if you don't have them, then, you know, that's kind of rough. So what you're basically doing is you're playing a defensive role in this vehicle and holding back and waiting for people to push and then donking on them as they come. Because if you play aggressive, what you'll find is the gun, because it's so big, this machine acts like the M51, where it's incredibly bouncy, the turret and the breech and the gun itself. So when you try and get it on target, it's just going to bounce off and not going to hit anything. It's very, very frustrating in general. It does have a 50 cal though, and the 50 cal means that you can shoot at planes, which is quite nice. So at least there's that. But if you actually get shot by something on the ground, you'll just die. It does have some decent armor on the front of it. I did ricochet some rounds off the turret itself, since it's the kind of the Pershing turret. But the hull is really not going to stop anything because it's just a standard Sherman hull. So my experiences in this thing were just odd. I can't tell whether it should be at this BR or it should be lower. There's no way this vehicle should be higher. But if it goes lower, then it would still face the same competition that I was facing, and it would still have the same issues as it did before. It's kind of like the Object 211, right? I think the major issue of the M4T26 is it doesn't have a full lineup around it. You know, the one thing that makes 5.7 really strong for America, and the one thing that makes 6.7 really strong is the full lineup. Maybe in the future, as we get more vehicles added to this BR, that could help the American vehicles at this BR to do alright. Yesterday, while getting many games with 4 or 5 or 6 kills, I ended up going 15 defeats in a row. In this machine, by the way, capped off by 2 wins right at the end of spading this thing. That meant that my win rate in this is incredibly low compared to my standard. My standard is around about like 55%, and unfortunately this machine did not live up to that. We got 37% win rate over 30 battles, but we went plus 20 in ground kills, 47 ground kills to 27 deaths, and also 4 air kills. There was a lot of casts in the air that I got hammered by, which wasn't entirely fun, but yeah, we didn't do too badly in it. We just lost 15 games in a row. Which shows how these teams around this BR for America just don't exist, and you just get hammered by Germany. I will say maybe it was just the day, maybe tomorrow if I played it, it would be different, but there was definitely an issue with teams falling apart. The M4T26 needs parts, it needs FPE, and it also needs the M82 shot, which is the rank 1 round. This means that once you penetrate stuff, you will generally either annihilate, like take them all out, or generally you will, do enough damage for everybody to kind of take notice in a way. The other thing that then should be focused on is the mobility upgrade, since the Sherman chassis is pretty slow with this major gun on. And even after you get all of the upgrades, there will still be a lot of vehicles like Tigers, which you have to accurately shoot, and unfortunately this gun just does not do accuracy a lot of the time. So there were times where I was shooting a Tiger and I didn't change the scope, and the first shot would go above where it was supposed to go, the second shot would go below, and then the third shot would actually hit where it's supposed to go. And that is the problem with this 90mm. I would class this tank as a little bit frustrating to play because you are limited in your playstyle. You have to play defensive, and also you have to rely on a bit of RNG. It reminds me of the Chieftain Mark III back in the day, which was a vehicle which generally had problems with its gun. They did actually make it a little bit more accurate, which was nice, but it still has that occasional round which just does not go anywhere near it's supposed to. And that's no different with the M4T26. It's still got that issue, and hopefully in the future they reduce its dispersion, so therefore it goes where you shoot. Because on a lot of these targets, especially Tigers and Panthers, you have to shoot at very specific areas to be able to pen them. Whether it's cupolas, whether it's the turret cheeks for Panthers, or whether it's the flat part in the center for Tigers. And trying to hit that with the 90mm, if you slightly miss it, it will ricochet and angle off because of the volumetric setup of the shell. It is incredibly annoying. I've got a feeling that this vehicle will go down in BR, not because of the simple fact that it's too good at its BR, because it's fine at its BR. It's just the fact that War Thunder's about lineups, and this one just doesn't have one. And I feel like it's going to merge into the 5.7 to give it a new lease of life, so therefore it can have a good time. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Millie Draper, Juan the Panda, Nick R. Cupila, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, PerMan, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie B. Young, Peter Grayling, Jerry Provolt, Bareen, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, Derek R., and Lafouche for supporting the channel.